On today's show, we're going to be talking with an expert in aesthetics and beauty and has multiple businesses here in the Silicon Valley. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
Mauricio Mejia Live.
All right, welcome back to Mauricio Mejia Live. And today I have the honor and pleasure of interviewing a very a socialite, a jet setter here in Silicon Valley, an amazing businesswoman with an amazing story to share with us today. So I'm very excited to have our special guest, Sahar.
Thank you.
I'm not even going to chop up the last name, so say it for us for the audience.
Saghezchi.
See how beautiful that was? Sahar.
Saghezchi.
There you go. So teamwork right there.
Yes, yes. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for making the time to be here. And I know you got a busy schedule, especially with not only one business, but two businesses, and probably a lot of other things that are happening on in your life. So we're going to dive right into it.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of shared with you behind the scenes. The show is designed so that we can highlight and showcase the journey of an entrepreneur. And an entrepreneur isn't just a man, it's a woman. There's a lot of women, powerful women that are taking on that role. And as you can see, my team, the backstage, we're outnumbered in here, right?
Yes,
So
yes, totally.
That says a lot. So again, I just want to thank you for coming out. And I want to dive into your journey as a businesswoman and share with the world all the beautiful things that you do.
Wow. Well, thank you.
Yes.
Again, thank you for that. Thanks for having me here. Man, where do I start?
Let's start with what your background. Born and raised in your family.
Yeah, born and raised in the Bay Area.
Okay.
I was born in San Francisco. My dad.
Born in San Francisco too.
Yeah? Where? Like
General Hospital.
Kaiser. I'm a Kaiser baby.
All right. Yeah.
So my dad, my parents, they, are immigrants here from Iran. And my dad came here with two kids, my two older brothers, spoke no English, decided to go back to school. He went to dental school. And I was born in his third year.
So you got a beautiful smile there.
Yes.
Wow.
These are veneers.
Oh, well, I'm working on mine right now.
Yes,
so I
yes.
gotta get that
You gotta
smile.
you're going to come see us for sure.
Okay. I love it. All right.
Yes. So my father, I was born in his last year of dental school, and I look back at the videos, and my dad would study in a closet. He had three kids, and he would study in a closet. And I remember he opened his practice, and I had to be like a year and a half, 2 years old. But I have these like vivid memories of being in his office as like a child, a baby, you know, and I wanted to pick up the phone every time the phone rang. Like I wanted to be like, Dr. Sage's office, this is Sahar. Like, how can I help you?
Yeah.
And it was just, that's kind of, for me, I grew up thinking, that's what I'm going to do. It's like having a business is just what you do, right? There's like no other way. I didn't think there was another option or anything. My mom, she helped my father build his practices. He had three, and she would help run them. She managed them. And then she was like, sorry, can I say that?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
We're not regulated here. This is we're worldwide. So
she was like, shit, I have two like teenage boys who are trouble.
Yeah.
And I need to stay home. And so she was home. And that was never like appealing to me. I wanted family and everything, but I'm like, no, I have to be, I'm just going to open a practice. I'm going to end up that way regardless. And so I watched my father go through every detour, every difficulty, trouble, everything you could imagine that business ownership is. You know what that's like. You just get tossed these things that you're like, well, what do I do with this? And I watched my dad go through everything and come out better, stronger, confident, and humble.
Wow, yes.
And my dad has always been my biggest inspiration, my biggest mentor. And when I was 14, I remember going behind my parents' back and getting a job, and I got a job at the Jungle. It was like this kid's place.
Yeah. Is that in Los Gatos? Is that
it was off of Saratoga, yes.
Yeah.
And I walk in
I don't know why I remember that place, but anyway.
Yes. I walk in and I'm like, hi, I want a job here. And they were like, okay. And I was 14. It was the day I turned 14 years old. And my dad's like, where were you? I'm like, I got a job at the Jungle. He's like, what do you need a job for? I'm like, I want to make money. Like, I want to have money. I want to go spend money. I want to like have my own. And he's like,
wow.
But, and I think it offended him at first. Like, he's like, I'm your dad. I should take care of you. And I made a lot of money as a 14-year-old. I would host these birthday parties, and the parents would give me like $100 tips. Yes, and I'd have like 3 or 4 birthdays in a like a Saturday.
Oh wow!
And I would splurge. I would take all my girlfriends to the mall, like you know those little kiosks that have like purses.
I'd like,
you guys get to pick. I just like was like, I'm a little baller. And it was so weird, and my parents were like, "What?" And my brothers were like, "Hey, Dad, can I get like $100?" You know, and I'm like, that $100 would stay on the counter forever. Like it's just something innately within me, and I think it just came from watching my dad work so hard all the time. Yeah. So I, went to school. I went to San Jose State, and I worked for a plastic surgeon at that time. And I just was in the right place at the right time. And I worked for a great surgeon. He was my mentor, and I just learned everything there was. Kind of just over my head, though. Like I didn't know that I was learning so many incredible things. I didn't really have a set plan. I was just like, wow, I'm here and I love it. And I treated that place like my own. And then after 8 years, I'm like, I'm ready to open my own practice.
Wow. So let's slow it down there. You get this job.
Which one? The jungle?
The jungle.
Yeah.
The jungle. You become a mini baller at 14. We run similarities here because my first business was at 15.
Yeah. What was it?
I was washing cars around the neighborhood, and it was partly because I grew up with a single mom, so couldn't afford the wants, only what we needed, the basics, and Air Jordans were like the thing at the time growing up. So I decided that I needed to figure out a way, and I one day just said I'm going to walk around the neighborhoods, pick the biggest cars because I thought bigger, more money, and I started my first business.
See, it's within you.
Yeah.
It's not like you were like, oh yeah, maybe I'll just start a business later in life. Like it's in you.
Yeah.
It's hustle. It's work hard.
Yeah.
It's the desire to work hard and hustle. You want that. You're like, oh, that feels good.
I saw it because my mom was my biggest inspiration. So she was a hard worker, and that hard work ethic instilled in me at a young age.
Definitely.
So I took that DNA and I've ran with it, and ever since then, I've never looked back.
Well, it's gratification too, right? It feels good for you.
Yeah,
it's something.
It's like a dopamine. It is. It's like a like, right?
100%.
Success like. Oh man, business like. There's a lot of great things, good feelings that come out of this, out of accomplishments, and then running your own business.
Well, okay, so now you tell me.
All right, you're the interviewer now. All right, go for it.
We don't do it for money, right? Because if it was for money, number one, I always say I'd work for somebody else.
Right.
And number two, it's like you really have to have passion for what you do, right?
You got to love
your motto. Love what you do.
I love your motto, by the way. You got to love.
You really do have to love what you do.
Absolutely.
And it's this cliche, right?
Yeah.
You never work a day in your life if you really love what you do. It is so damn true.
Yeah.
Because I never go to the office and think, oh man, I'm at work. Like sometimes my mom will call and I'm like, I'm at the office, and she's like, you work so much. I'm like, it really doesn't feel like work though.
No.
I am so lucky and blessed that I get to walk into this place, walk into that place, and see patients or whatever it is. I love it so much that it doesn't feel like work.
Interesting you say that, because you're probably getting the same satisfaction that I got out of nightlife.
I'm sure.
Nightlife was and you're right. Let me jump on that one about it's not about the money. The money is a byproduct of hard work, consistent hard work, passion, love, right? One of my mentors, Stedman, says to me one day. He said, "Well, it's part of his book. In order to lead others, you must learn how to lead yourself first.
Yes.
And then it comes back from the root of love. In order to love others, you must learn to love yourself.
Yes.
And I really, those are real deep ingrained in me. So when I started my business, I fell in love with nightlife. I fell in love with the glitz and the glamour. All the other stuff I saw was the excess of that lifestyle. But I remember that when I made that decision to run with it, it was never. I I became so immersed.
Yeah, you're like obsessed with what you do.
That's right.
And obsession is amazing.
Yeah.
I think
You
obsession.
have to control it, though. Yeah.
Well, yes, of course, just like everything. But being obsessed,
Everything in moderation.
Well, I don't know. You know,
Except making money.
right? But you're like kind of obsessed with what you do because consistency, right? I always say it's not necessarily about motivation.
Right.
Whenever I'm like praying, I'm like, dear God, I pray for like the ability to stay consistent as opposed to like the motivation. I'm like, I pray that I just have the ability to stay consistent because consistency is really what wins, right? Motivation comes and it goes. And sometimes we're motivated, sometimes we're not. So
trust me, I'm going through it right now. You know,
we all do.
Yeah, it's crazy. So let's talk about. There is a time though that you will fall. Well, depends. I mean, I've done some career changes in my life. I did the nightlife for 25 years. I mastered that, and I took it to super high levels where it just you couldn't. What was next for me is what I didn't want. I was being recruited to go to Las Vegas. And then I also told myself, I'm like, you know, that was probably the best thing that happened for me because Vegas to me, it's just like
a slippery slope.
The slippery.
It's a slippery slope.
I was already on a slippery slope just in the Bay Area, so I just could imagine what that could have been.
You have to learn when to say no.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think I'm
learning that even now more.
Well,
every day I'm learning something new.
I was just going to say, we don't ever stop learning because we still make mistakes. We learn from them, hopefully.
Yes.
And you are able to, exactly, hopefully. We don't learn from all of our mistakes, but hopefully we learn from the big ones and we're able to learn when to say no. And I think that that's one really big thing. A huge thing, I think, is learning when to say no. Because I feel like as a society, obviously as entrepreneurs and business owners, this is head on, but as a society, we're so busy trying to get from A to Z that we forget to enjoy B through, Y?
Yeah.
B through Y.
Yeah.
We forget to enjoy all the rest of it, right? It's like, okay, I've prayed for this. Or I've worked really effing hard for this.
Yes.
Let me take a minute and enjoy right here where I am. And that's really hard. That takes a lot of self-control. That takes a lot of like pause because in our mindset, it's like, all right, what's next? What are we doing now?
I was just going to go into
what's
that.
Next?
So,
what's now?
For me, I've had that experience, and I've learned to slow down, right? Because we're orchestrating. We're orchestrating.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can describe it. Or unless it turns into a zoo and then we become a circus leader.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not. Yeah, it's all about that. I mean, that like ties exactly into my life. Like my practice, I have so many different patients who walk in. You got to know the room. You have to be able to read the room. You have to know who you're talking to. You have to be able to know how to adjust yourself.
Absolutely.
You know. So yeah, that's definitely.
And especially at the level that you're playing, and the type of clientele that you're working with. You're looking at upper end market.
Yeah.
You're up there
we're
with
a want.
Yeah.
We're a want, not a need, right? And so
a big want though. There's a big market on that.
There is.
Yeah.
There absolutely is. There's such a big market for it. I have like my whole motto about aesthetic medicine is it's medicine and we're medical providers. And I think it always gets misconstrued. People want to open it up like a business, like, oh yeah, I'm just going to go open a med spa. Like, no, bro, that's not how it works. Like you are a medical provider.
I can see you've probably dealt with a lot of these clowns or people that
I've been in this industry for 17 years and I opened Cupertino 9 years ago. I opened Infusions 2 years ago. And then a year and a half ago, I opened a consulting firm that I have. And I'm like, I have met so many people like you, and you sometimes like have to hold yourself back from being like, really, is that what you think it is? Business ownership is not what you think it is. And it is not for the faint of heart. It is not for the weak. It is.
You better have a stomach of steel.
You better.
Yeah.
You absolutely better.
Yeah.
You better know and own the fact that like you're not going to be able to please everybody, that you have to really have an understanding within yourself. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you something. So,
by the way, I love this conversation. I really do, because it's not very frequent that you get to have intelligent conversation.
I appreciate this too.
On the highest level.
Being a business owner is not like smooth sailing. You don't just get a paycheck every month. You know, you're like, oh shit, am I going to be able to make payroll? Am I going to be able to figure this out?
Oh yeah.
A couple bad months is shitty.
Yeah.
So
you can't do too many of those. I always used to tell people in the entertainment world, I'm like, you're only as good as your last party. Because the next one has to be just as good or better, right? You can never.
You got to show up.
You got to show up. You got to be present. Show up. Yeah.
So I was going to say, this year I started something called hypnotherapy. Okay. And I started it because I was stressed out all the time. You know, there was just so many shifts last year in my practice. And so I went back to school a few years ago. I was always like the business side. And I'm like, you know what? I do all the consults here. I want to be a provider. I train my team. So why the hell not? So I went back to school. I did all that. But last year was a tough year for the business, for the practice. I think overall in aesthetic medicine, but I was stressed out.
What do you think?
You know, I think
people still trying to figure out what, I mean, 2 years before that, I mean, the world was shut down and you're still trying to figure what. And then,
I think people started opening up to travel. Also in the Bay Area, we had quite a bit of loss of employment, you know, in the tech world. There was a huge dip. And while my clientele is not necessarily the people who should be impacted by that, still people were like kind of holding off. They're like, okay, instead of coming in and spending $3,000, I'm going to spend like $500, you know? Well, my overhead is very high. Don't get excited. My overhead's 80%. I have an 80% overhead.
I'm in the wrong business.
No, you're not. Trust me. I have a very high overhead. So I started hypnotherapy.
What's your margins? That's what
I'm saying. 80% overhead. It's wild. It's crazy. Okay, so I start hypnotherapy because I see a good friend of mine. She posts on social media and she's like, oh, I'm starting to do hypnotherapy. I'm looking for a couple of people. And I'm like, wow, I was in like a pretty stressful place in my life. I'm like, this could be good. So I signed up for it. And I'm like, wow, the first thing she says to me is, you're so passionate about what you do. You love your work. You identify so strongly with your career. As a mom, I'm a mom. I have a 6-year-old daughter. And she's like, but you think that expressing how passionate you are about your business is associated with how stressed out you are. And I was like,
all right, you caught my attention here.
Yes. She's like, you know, you don't have to be super stressed out to care about something. And I think that a lot of business people kind of associate like the level of, oh my gosh, oh yeah, no, this is going this way or blah, 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 you know, and they're like, that means I care about my job. And she was like, you don't have to. It's actually, you know, the most successful people, they take a moment and they have like that self-love you're talking about, right? They have that self-care, whatever that is. And when you do that, you actually operate from a place of clarity as opposed to operating from a place of stress. Operating from a place of stress doesn't allow you to make the best of decisions. You make decisions based off of, oh my God, what's going to happen?
Or emotions, right?
Or emotions. Well, that's what that is, right?
Relationship can get you and off your square. That's
exactly.
Yeah.
But you take a minute and you're like, I'm going to operate from clarity. I'm going to take my moment. I'm going to stress out about it because it's stressful. But then I'm going to operate and I'm going to make a decision from a place of clarity. And I think that was like the best thing that I could have ever done for any of my businesses or even as a mom. Like, oh, wow, this taking a moment and like self-realization, that just having a moment to understand where you're at mentally and that you don't have to be so stressed out in order to express the level of passion you have for something. Yeah. That hit a lot for me. And I think that changed my businesses quite a bit. And this year has just felt different for me because mentally I'm in a different place.
I think that what happens is because we're so passionate about our businesses, right, that we allow when the business starts to like
shift, roller coaster.
It starts going through some turbulence, right?
Yeah, the detours.
Yeah, you know, we then become the worry or fear kicks in, and fear will cripple anybody.
Of course, because your biggest fear is failure. Yeah, right. But
that's actually a motivator for me.
Same.
Yeah, it's like that fire in my. It just is like that fire in the belly. Just
because that's not an option.
That's right.
You know, that's not an option, and
zero options.
No,
zero.
Yeah, not. It's not even there. And so you have that fear, but you're like, I'm not going to let that happen. So what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
When I opened Cupertino, it's an aesthetic medical practice. We do like face, neck, chest, intimacy.
I don't know if I can afford it. You're going to have to give me like the entry level.
We're going to do a consult for you after this. On air. Just kidding.
Hey, you got it. Hey, look at me now. And
that's what we're going to do. Now, you look great. When I opened Cupertino, I got pregnant and I was like, okay, I found out I was having a girl. And, we were talking about like men, women in business type thing. I'm going to go there for a second.
Yeah, no, let's go.
I was like, all right,
This is your show now, so you can have it.
It's our thing
there we
today.
Go. I love it. Oh my God, I love it. I love your energy. All right, good. All right.
And I found out I was having a girl. I was already hustler. I'm like, oh yeah, we're going to get through this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to have this business and blah, blah. And my dad, he's even worse than me. I'm like, hey dad, like, what do you think about X, Y, Z? He's like, yeah, let's do it. I'm like, darn it. I almost needed you to say no. Yeah.
No. Like,
so I find out I'm having a girl and I'm like, oh, wow, it's over. Like, mommy needs to level up now. Like, it was the moment I found out I was having a girl that I'm like, I think I need to be the best version of myself as a person, business owner, everything. I was like, I'm going back to school. She's going to watch me go to school. She's going to watch me have my business. And the biggest difference I would say that I struggle with is like a business woman, whatever, we're all in business and we're entrepreneurs, is like that mom guilt, is the mom guilt. Women were like, we want to be powerful businesswoman, badass, this, blah, blah, blah.
Superwoman.
Yeah. And then it's
or Wonder
like,
Woman.
Totally, right? Whatever woman, whatever boss, whatever you want to be, whatever superhero you want to be,
boss bitch,
whatever it is. Yeah, we want to be it all. And then it's like, I also have to make sure I pick her up on time. Nobody else gets her. If like my mom has to pick her up, I'm like, oh my God, I chose work. Oh my God, But then I'm like, what can I ever do to teach her like strong work ethic and values other than show her, right? I can't tell it to her. And so she was like 3 years old and I went back to school and I missed for 18 months. I missed every Saturday with my daughter. And I was like, oh my God, I've missed a year and a half of Saturdays with my daughter because I was in school. And then I had to like have this moment. I'm like, I'm teaching her something amazing and there's no other way I would have been able to do that. But having a daughter made me want to push harder, push more. And like,
if you would have had a boy, what?
Oh no, I'd probably still just have one practice. I'm just kidding.
All right. All right.
I'm just kidding.
All right.
I'm totally kidding. I don't know. I'd probably have the same motivation for a different reason.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, he's got to see his, future wife is going to be a badass. So there's like, everybody has something that is their why.
Yeah.
And for a long time it was one thing. And then for the last 6 years, it's been something else for me. I'm like, I see her and I'm like, that's my why. Yeah, I'm going to work late tonight.
And when your why becomes stronger, your motivation, then you're moving in that direction. It's your purpose now.
Purpose, yeah.
So business, you've opened up too. Any plans for more expansions? Or
no, I am extremely happy with where I'm at.
Okay.
I think my motto is something you said too. You said you dominated the nightlife industry, right? For me, it's let me dominate what I do and what I have. And I'm okay with not having more locations, more of that. I want to just grow what I have. And Cupertino Aesthetics is my first baby. It's 9 years old, going to be 10. And then the Cakery Infusions, I partnered with a good friend of mine, Marlon, who owns the Cakery by Marfit next door to where we opened. And it was like an infusion of our two specialties. He's
cool.
Health and fitness, and I'm, wellness and medical aesthetics and beauty. And we're like, let's do this together. And so I'm like, let's dominate that. Let's make that turnkey. Let's make it incredible. Let's just make it so smooth and efficient and just do what we say that we want to do.
Yeah.
And the next 5-10 years, I would be very happy if just these businesses and of course my consulting business, if those three things just kind of did what they're supposed to do.
That's a lot on the plate. And the consulting, the beautiful part about that is that you get to, clients are going to look out, they're going to seek you. And then you get to pick and choose what you want to get involved with.
Yeah.
And they're going to pay a premium for whatever it is that you're consulting with them. And
I I like educating, and I think that's one thing about the kind of provider I am. I'm talking a lot to my patients about the treatments, the services, but I like to educate them on the why. I'm like, this is why I make this recommendation, and then I'm like, getting all scientific on them, and I'm like, I hope I haven't lost you.
Yeah.
But I like to educate people, and I like to. Having a mentor was so important for me that I find it very important to be able to, if I could be that for somebody else, it's a big deal, I think.
Mentors are always important. I wouldn't have gotten to where I'm at today if I didn't have the proper mentors. My mentor in the nightlife industry he was the godfather of nightlife here in San Jose and in the South Bay, and he brought me under his wing. And, to the point where he was more father figure to me as well.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And have you mentored people too?
Absolutely. So I've seen that as I'm getting wiser, right? I've started to really, I want to see that next generation grow and do some amazing things.
Yeah, that's important.
And I'm realizing it now more. What I have realized, even to extreme levels, is that the more people that I help, the more blessings and the more things that just come back in.
Of course.
And I don't do it for that reason. It's just there's been enough of those pop slide, like, whoa, like this stuff happened, and in return it was just because of the good stuff that I was putting out there.
My parents would always say, and my dad, because he's been in business and everything, he'd always be like, if you have the opportunity to help somebody and you don't, that's a bad thing. That is a bad thing if you have the opportunity and ability to help somebody,
that's right,
and you don't.
Yeah.
And my dad has employed everybody in the Bay Area in his office, whether he needed it or not. They needed a job. He's like, okay, go ahead. And it's like helping people is so incredibly important. And you're right. It's not like you do it for something. It's more like your own gratification that you do it.
Makes you feel good inside.
It does.
And again, then the smile that you put on that person's face, or the fact that you're able to put food,
that you can do that. You have the opportunity to help somebody else. Yeah, it's very important.
Even at sometimes sacrificing ourselves, right?
Yes. How many times have we done that? A lot. Yeah, a lot.
Yeah, that's your dad seems to be a pretty big part of all of this.
Oh yeah, I love my dad. I love my parents. I'm very close to both of them. I'm very close to my brothers. I have 2 older brothers. My oldest brother is my medical director.
Okay.
So when I was going to open Cupertino, my brother was...
Is he a good employee?
Yeah.
All right, good.
He's okay. He is the director of oral maxillofacial surgery at UCSF Medical Center. So I was like, hey, I do this for a living. You want to be my medical director? I have an incredible team that I can put together. And he was like, where do you want to do this? I'm like, we're going to plot at Dad's office. And he's like, what? My dad had this beautiful cosmetic dental practice. I'm like, Dad, can I expand your practice? And he was like, yeah. He didn't even bat an eyelash. He was like, of course you can. Yeah. And so my brother, he was like, okay, all right, let's see how this goes. Yeah. And he just trusted me, thank goodness. And so I'm very close to my family. My other brother's a dentist in Mill Valley. And my mom is
I'm surrounded by dentistries right now.
Are you?
The girl I'm seeing right now, she's a dentist. She actually owns a school up in Berkeley.
Wow, that's great.
And she's buying a practice out here in Campbell. I guess there's a school
that's awesome. And it's a good industry.
Yeah.
I mean,
I told her, I said, you need a business partner? Because I started to see, I'm like, whoa, how much?
So dentistry
each
sure.
veneer is like $2,000. So I'm like,
I
and we talk about it because I've been recently looking. Just to do, because they have to do all of my teeth, it's about $60,000.
Oh, yeah. My dad used to. Back then, they would do a lot. I mean, it was like, my dad would be like, somebody park a little Rolls Royce in their mouth. People pay a lot of money for their teeth, their dental work. And that's back then.
I'm like, damn, that's a car right there in your mouth.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
No.
Totally. It's crazy. It's cool to have the 2 sides of the practice though, the full medical aesthetic side, and then to have my dad's cosmetic dental practice, and to be able to work with my dad, to be able to work alongside my brother, and just have that is great. I mean, I love it. I can't ask for anything else. So I get to work with my mentor every day.
Talking about mentor, was that the mentor that you had was part of your second job? Because we kind of skipped that one. When you went into the cosmetics, the surgery.
He was, yes, the plastic surgeon I worked for. He was awesome. He was kind of like a brother to me. He had the same family dynamic that I had. Him and his wife, they had 2 boys and a girl, just like how I was. He was, 2 boys and a girl, his brother and sister, and it was like he was also Persian. We had a very, very great.
I should have been Persian, by the way. We haven't even gotten into that story. So
are you Italian?
No, Spanish.
Spanish.
So
Okay.
We have from southern Spain, so Murcia and. So Tangiers, Morocco, and all those like budded. We're gypsies. We have the gypsy blood in us. So
yes.
that's
You
probably,
should have been Persian, though.
Well, and the reason why I say that was my mentor was Persian.
Oh, okay.
Harry Evans.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Yes,
Heretuna Vanessian.
Yes, of course.
And then
I was going to guess that.
Yeah, and I've always loved the Persian culture.
It's a culture.
It's a culture.
It's a culture.
And there's a lot of great history. And a lot of the things that were embedded in me by Harry as my mentor was a lot of the Persian history of the Persian Empire.
Oh, I love that.
He has shared so many great stories and then great analogies and it's instilled, and I use those today as my guides, right?
Definitely. We have a strong history.
You do. You do.
Strong people.
Yeah.
Strong values.
Strong DNA.
DNA, strong values. It's like in our core, that's just what it is. And I value that so much.
Yeah.
So much.
You can see it, you can feel it in the way you express yourself, especially about your mom and your dad. And mom, we need to touch base on mom.
Oh, my mom, she's amazing. She's the backbone of the whole family.
Oh, there
she's
you go.
Like,
we haven't given her enough credit.
No, she just is.
Mom,
if you meet my mom,
come on.
If you meet my mom,
how do you say like spanking in Persian? Like
kotak,
like
a little smack.
There you go.
Yeah, no, my mom for sure. She's the backbone of the family, and she's like my biggest cheerleader.
Got it.
And I adore her. I love her. It's just I work with my dad, and so I get to see him on so many different levels, and that's later in my adult life. So it's very different. And even with my brother, we have my medical director. We're 9 years apart, our age difference. And so growing up, that wasn't easy. He was like, he hated every decision I made. He was like a dad. He was just like, what are you doing in life?
You're 10 years old and he's 19, and then he's...
Oh, yeah. No, he was...
You're 21 and he's 30,
Yeah, and
30.
So now in adult life, it's very different, the relationships. It's very different.
He's your employee.
Kind of,
You're like, wait a minute. Hey, you're working for little sister. But
kind of, kind of. He's amazing. He's an incredible, renowned surgeon. And it's funny, actually. Funny story about my brother being my medical director. In aesthetic medicine, we have to do something called a GFE, a good faith exam, every time a patient comes in and they're having a treatment done. Okay. Basically, it's ensuring that they are in good health to receive the treatment that we're going to give them. And so there's a series of questions that are asked specific to each procedure. And so after COVID, when I first opened Cupertino, I was like, I am going to be a specialty practice in intimacy wellness. I'm like, there's a million med spas. I'm going to do intimacy.
Sounds like a lot of words in there.
Yeah, so. Intimacy wellness. Yeah. We're going to do this, and we're going to dominate that.
Yeah, we're going to dominate.
Because, not very many people do that, and there's a million med spas doing Botox and fillers, but not this. And my providers at first were like, okay. And I'm like, yes, just wait and see. So COVID happened, and when COVID happened, I decided this is a perfect time for me to come up with a intimacy like skincare line so that we launch everything when we come back from COVID. And we came back from COVID, and I told my providers, I have one of my estheticians, he's like my lead medical esthetician. I said, hey, you're going to be doing intimacy lightening. And he's like, the hell I'm not. And I'm like, yeah, you are. He's like, I haven't seen one of those since I came out of one. Like, what do you want me to do with intimacy lightening? I'm like, you got to lighten. We're an intimacy practice now. We do a lot of intimacy. And we had to call my brother for a good faith exam. And I was like, we have to get on FaceTime. I'm like, hey, so I need you to do a good faith exam for me. And he's like, all right, fine. What's it for? Botox. I'm like, no, it's actually intimacy tightening. And he was like, what? He's like, can you go in the other room? I'm like, why? He's like, what did we sign up for? What are we doing? I'm like, we do vaginal tightening here. And he's like, when did that happen?
Well,
like, I'm the medical director. I'm supposed to know about this.
Well,
I'm
you
like,
threw
what?
me off guard. I didn't even know what.
I said intimacy.
Yeah,
you had to catch on to that.
well,
intimacy. That's what I said. My brother was like, wait, you made you bought this without telling me?
I probably had the same reaction that your brother had. I'm like, wait, what? Like, did you just say what I just thought you said?
Yeah.
Wow.
Said,
how does that work now? I'm curious. Can you explain that to us?
How much time do we have left?
Unfortunately, not enough. But so we'll save that for another.
Yes.
Is there a YouTube video on that?
Our Instagram has no. It's just women's health, really.
All right.
But again, the perks of my brother being my medical director is I can make those decisions and then be like, yeah, can you please medically clear this patient for this procedure? And he's like, okay.
What's the process?
What do I even
clearing?
ask? He did. He's like, what do I ask for these things? I'm like, XYZ. He's like, all right, she's fine.
All right. Three questions. How many questions in that survey?
There's a few. There's
All
a
right.
number of questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's one of the services that we offer.
Wow. It's a niche market. Your
Very
business.
much.
Yeah.
Very much. I think that's what it's about,
Niches lead to riches.
Just be good at what you offer, right? Know your stuff, know what you're doing, and be really confident in the services or treatments or anything it is in your industry, your business. Like, know it, master it, be good at it, and be really comfortable and confident referring out to somebody if you are not, that's not what you do.
That's right.
So I think that's one big thing that is a stand apart in the practice is really the confidence and the ability to say, hey, you're a good candidate for something that I don't offer. I'm going to refer you to one of my, surgeons or other providers that I know in my network, and I'll see you when you're done with that.
Yeah.
And I think that creates a level of trust and relationship and rapport that is irreplaceable.
Yeah. Yeah. And it keeps within your circle of referrals, right?
Yep.
It keeps the circle. I call it the Wheel of Fortune.
The Wheel of Fortune. I love that.
Keeps it going, and everyone helps each other out.
The more everybody brings their brains together, their experiences, their knowledge together, the smarter we are as an industry. So it's like back in the day, people would not share their secrets.
Yeah, they keep it all close.
Keep it, and that's like old school mentality. Yeah. Now it's like, let me share that. Let me share some, bad experience that I had and how I fixed it so that doesn't happen to somebody else. Because then you're giving the whole industry a bad look or that negative connotation people have about what medical aesthetics really is. But if you bring everything together and you can talk about it to complications, good things, trends, all that stuff together, you're really just elevating the industry as a whole. Yeah,
no, agreed. I think that once you take what you want to do or what you're doing to the highest level and you super serve, that's what made me very successful in my industry when I was in the entertainment. We went above and beyond. I knew what, I just knew from the minute you're walking in, boom, you were going to get the velvet.
Yeah, of course. You're going to get that red carpet situation for sure. And that's customer service. That's it. It's customer service. It's also a little culture, it's like... Yeah. That culture makes you want to be like hospitality,
That's
right?
Right. We want to make everyone feel super comfortable.
Absolutely.
Good. So let me ask you, words of encouragement, words of wisdom, obviously some of the things that you've learned. What would you share out there with people that want to get into a business and, and it could be any business, some of your experiences. What are some of the pitfalls that you would tell people to avoid and,
Doing too much. Don't do too much.
Now you're talking to me. I'm a deal junkie. That's
but that's just your entrepreneur mind, right? Yeah. And then you got to ground yourself real quick and be like, hold on, no, I got to somebody has to burst the bubble a little bit.
I'm gonna recline my seat back here now. We're gonna go into a therapy session here because I definitely have done that. We
all have. Yeah. We learn from that, right? But that's definitely one thing, and it takes a lot of self-control. That's a huge thing. As a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you're a businessman. It's like you want to be able to do a lot of things, right? Yes. You're like, I'm going to do. Yeah, I could do that. Of course, I could do that.
I could do everything. I can open up a gym. I'm like, what?
Of course, yeah, absolutely.
I own the nightclub. I can do a gym. That's easy.
Yeah. But then you kind of have to be like,
Yeah.
okay, what am I going to be really good at? And I'm sure you're great at it. I mean, it's beautiful what you've got.
Thanks.
But I think that's the.
It's actually one of my toughest babies out of all the babies I have.
I mean, I get it. I've got one of those too.
Yeah.
So it's like, I get it. It's a tough one, but you like the challenge.
I do. I'm addicted to that
Exactly.
challenge.
Exactly.
And that's what keeps me going. But like you said, sometimes you're gonna have to say no to certain things, and I've learned to now say no to a lot of different things.
You have to.
And I've tested a few things that I'm like, I don't ever want to go back to that because it doesn't have the taste and the I don't have the passion for it anymore.
But that's good.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't know that unless you tried it.
Yes.
There's, a
Yes.
lesson in something. There's something that was learned. There's an
Absolutely.
experience that was made.
Absolutely.
There was a memory that was made. There's something, right?
Yeah.
But I definitely think that my biggest just piece of advice is to not do too much because we want to. In my personal industry, every rep wants to come into your practice and sell you the world and be like, this device is your $1 million device. This is going to make you so much money. And you're like, and when you're first opening, you're like, oh my God, you're right. Wow. He just told me that I could make, $10,000 in like 2 days. You fall for it, but you got to know what is your specialty, what is your value, what do you want to be known for, what do you want to be good at, and then stick to that plan and try not to veer, that's the most important thing, I think. And don't overdo it. Be really effing good at what you do.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about.
You heard it here, Sahar. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're an amazing. You got an amazing story, and
Thank you.
Congratulations on all the success.
Thank you.
I'm the guy that's gonna say, don't limit yourself. Keep thinking big and growing, right? But hey, we all have our boundaries.
Yeah.
And that's a boundary.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Every other day, I'm like, I want to open a new business. I just have to burst my own bubble.
Yeah. Well,
and my business partner, Mars, if I say one thing, he's like, let's do it. And I'm like, no, you got to be the one to say no. So now I have to be the one to say no. I've kind of had to go into a different, zone in business because I have people around me who just say yes to everything. I'm like, someone just say no to me.
Yeah, I'll say no. So I'm like, no, actually,
you won't. You're gonna say keep going.
Yeah, no,
Sky's
keep
the
going.
limit.
I'm gonna be like, keep going, and then hey, how about we open one
together and do this?
blah blah blah, and then I'm like, no, I'm gonna take your advice today.
Oh, good.
And I appreciate the gems that you've shared
I
with me
appreciate
because
your story.
I learned a lot, and especially what your treatments are. Damn, what did they call those intimacy things?
Yes,
Anyway,
yes.
no. No, definitely in the path that I've chosen, where I really want to put my attention is where I want to put the most value for my time. And I also understand that along the way, not everybody is going to be able to stay on that on that ride with me.
Oh yeah, part.
And that yeah.
Yeah, that part.
Yeah, that's and I'm sure that you've dealt with a lot of that as you're climbing up that success, right? And whatever that success looks like.
Yep.
Because we all have a different version of it.
Absolutely.
But I just know that not everyone gets to be on that ride.
Yeah. That's the bittersweet part of growth and success. And that's actually something I had said in my therapy session. I was like, it scares me to grow because you feel like you may lose some people in your life while you're growing and going upward or whatever direction that is for you. But, that it's a little fearful.
That's deep right now.
It is.
Deep.
And I have things that have happened for me that kind of make me feel a little bit heavier about that level of growth. And so I think it's a big thing.
I felt what you just said. And it's hard. There's moments for me as well where you're just like, fuck. Mm-hmm. And then it hurts.
It does.
It hurts, and then it hits that core.
Oh, yeah.
But you have to make those decisions. And I was talking with my team back here about that is some of the decisions that I have to make in order to get to where I want to be are going to require those hard decisions. And at the same time, I also realize that I am not looking back anymore at the things that I used to do. I need to start creating things that I want to do that are also elevating to the environment that I've also exposed myself to now.
Absolutely. Like when we're driving, we look through our windshield, right? Not through our rear view.
I use that analogy. I'm tired of driving this car looking through the rearview mirror.
We check it just to like see what happened and then remind ourselves that we have to look forward.
Yes.
But you just said, or when you said, I said, fuck, like I'm not where I'm supposed to be, where I want to be. Then you have to be like, I'm actually exactly where the hell I'm supposed to be.
That's right.
This is exactly where I'm supposed
That's
to
right.
be. Because this is exactly where I need to be to get there.
That's right.
Yeah.
Amen to that, because that is the facts.
Yeah.
So we are where we're at and
Yep.
where we're supposed to be in order to get to the next place. The fuck is just more like a check, like, hey,
Yes.
hello, wake up.
Yeah.
Wake up. And so from that point moving forward, what you said is we got to just keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And then love what we do
Yes.
at the end of the day. So
Yeah.
we're going to end it on that one, because
I love it.
I love that, and thank you for sharing your time.
Thank you.
Your energy here with us.
Yes.
So anyhow, well, thank you so much
Thank
again for
you.
being here,
Thank you.
and whatever we can do to continue to have you be successful and
Thank you.
support.
I appreciate that.
Referrals will work, right?
Referrals will do. Thank you. Yeah,
we'll
I
make sure.
appreciate that.
So thank you
Thank
for your
you.
time.
Thank you. It was awesome. I really enjoyed every moment and every little crazy conversation.
We did. We went
did
on
one of these.
we went on a nice little roller coaster ride,
how it
and
should be.
that's what it was supposed to be.
That's exactly. Thank you.
Thank you so much again. All right, guys, another edition of Mauricio Mejia Live with our special guest Sahar.
Saghezchi.
There you go.
Mauricio Mejia Live.